YWLA students. It's Miss Burns, and guess what? I'm your advisory lesson today. We have a pretty big day coming up on Monday, September 21st, and students, if you've been paying attention, you know that on the 21st, that's the day our in-person students are returning to campus. Students, remember, if you chose virtual instruction, you will continue learning from home, you'll continue doing Zooms with your teachers for class, you'll continue doing your assignments on Canvas. But students, if you chose in-person instruction, guess what? I get to see you on Monday. I'm very excited about it, which is why I wanted to be your advisory lesson today. We're going to go through something that I'm sending to your families later today, but students, you get a sneak peek, and I'm going to give you an idea of what it's going to be like when you are back in the building. So just to give you an idea for our new students, our sixth graders, and any of our new students who have never met me, this is my third year as principal at Young Women's. I was a teacher for 10 years, actually in this same building back when it was Arnold Middle School. I spent 6 years at Grand Prairie High School as an administrator and was very, very happy and excited to come back here to work with you all. So during a normal non-pandemic year, this is what I look like. However, during a pandemic year, I'm gonna look like this when you see me in the hallway. So students, you'll recognize me because I'm pretty tall, and also look for someone who looks like this, and it'll be me. All right, students, we are going to jump into those different pieces of what it's going to look like when you are back in the building. If you have any questions, your teacher can answer your questions, or you can also reach out to campus if you or your families need any clarification. All right, let's get going, students. Okay, everybody, so I know that in advisory today, I have a combination of different students. I have some students who are going to continue to learn virtually on the 21st, and I have some students who are going to be in the building with us on the 21st. But guess what, everybody? I want all of us to go through this information together. Here's why. We are one YWLA, we are one sisterhood, and students, even if you're not gonna be in the building with us on Monday, you never know when it's going to be time to return. And so I want to make sure that everybody has this information. So everybody hang with me, even if you're going to be virtual on the 21st. So students, this is the information that your families are going to receive today. And I wanted you to get first look at it. So the purpose of this is basically just to give you and your families kind of an overview of what it's going to be like while you're in the building. Students, please don't feel like you have to memorize all of this. I just wanted to kind of give you an idea of what you can expect whenever you walk into our building on Monday. So if you look at that picture, for those of you who have never been to YWLA before, that is what the front of our building looks like. And if you are a bus rider, that is the entrance that you're going to go in, because that's where the buses are going to drop you off. What I want to do first is have us just take a look. So students who chose in-person instruction will return to YWLA on Monday. Students who chose virtual instruction will continue to work from home, attending Zoom classes and working in Canvas. I could also add in there making sure you submit your assignments and making sure that you do your attendance for every single class, because remember, virtual learners, that is so important. For our in-person learners, your teachers are going to do your attendance for you in person. And students, we really are excited to continue your learning journey, whether you are back in the building or whether you're going to be virtual. So let's look at the information on the right-hand side first, just a few reminders. So students, if you are returning to YWLA, don't forget to bring your student ID. We still need every single student to have their ID with them, wearing their ID every single day. If you're new to YWLA, then we have a plan for you to get your ID within the first week, and we'll make sure that you know when that's going to be so you're ready to get your ID. Students, even if you're going to be in person, guess what? You will still be using your iPads. Students, please be sure you bring your charged iPad to school every day. Keyword there, students, would be charged. You need to make sure that you have full battery on your iPad when you bring it. And also, students, one of the changes of a pandemic is that we have to make sure that we don't touch a whole bunch of surfaces that everyone else has touched, and that we don't drink out of water fountains, because a whole bunch of germs can be hiding right there if you put your mouth against a water fountain. So students, the water fountains will be for refilling water bottles only. Don't drink from the water fountains, but students, please be sure you bring a water bottle to refill, because I don't want you to be thirsty throughout the day. So in these gray boxes, these are hyperlinks to different things that we're going to look at. So our bell schedule, The only thing different about the bell schedule is during second and sixth periods, instead of everybody going to lunch at 11, we're going to have 4 different lunches. And then students, I'm also including in the email to families, I'm also including a map of YWLA so you can see where all the room numbers are. If you're in-person students, you do need to be in YWLA dress code. Students, here's a quick reminder about our dress code. Since I know for those of you who are returning, it's been a second since you've been in the building, please keep in mind this is in the email that your families received, so you can take a look at it there. But students, remember black slacks or our YWLA skirt. Remember, the slacks can't be leggings, it can't be jeans, it can't be tights, it has to be black slacks. And remember, on that back pocket, it can't be a jeans pocket, it has to be a slit pocket. For the shirts, your options are black or red polo, and high schoolers, you can throw in a white polo if you'd like to as well. And remember, high schoolers, you have the option of doing interview attire on Monday. Students, if you have any questions about dress code before you get on campus, you're welcome to give us a call. And then students, we are going to take a look at the mask requirements, and I'll give you a couple of reminders about that. So we'll take a look at what is on GPISD's website. Students, please note that it has to be a regular mask, meaning it can't be a bandana, it can't be a gaiter, and it can't be one that has a little vent on the side. It just needs to be a regular cloth mask. All right, going on to the next page. Here's a safety overview. And if you look at that picture, that's actually, if you're entering in the building at the cafeteria, that's what you're gonna see when you come in. Those 6 feet apart sticker reminders, they're throughout the building, and it's just to remind you to maintain that social distancing of 6 feet. Students, 6 feet is about 6 floor tiles because our floor tiles are 1 foot. And so please be sure you are providing ample space to the people in front of you. There's no need to crowd when you're going down the hall because everybody will get where they're supposed to be. Students who have been in the building before, you might be asking yourself, what is that weird red stripe above the 6 foot apart sign? Students, we have always asked that you walk on the right-hand side of the hallway. Students, now we have dividers going down the hallway, so please be sure that you are walking on the right and that you are staying in your lane. Think of it like when you ride in a car. The car needs to drive on the right-hand side of the road, and students, when you're at YWLA, we need you to walk on the right-hand side of the hallway. So just going over a few of the safety overviews, and we talked about masks a second ago, but students and staff will wear masks when they're in the building at all times, except of course when you're eating. So students, when you're in the cafeteria, you can take your mask off to eat your food, but as soon as you're finished, you have to put that back on. We already looked at the type of masks that you should and should not wear. And students, we do need you to make sure that you are wearing your masks properly. Kind of like the picture that I showed of what I look like whenever I'm a principal during a pandemic. I was wearing a mask, and remember, it's got to cover your nose and your mouth. So it should be covering and making sure that no germs and no virus can get in behind it. Students, you will remain socially distant while you're in the classrooms. Your teachers have seating charts for you, so they're going to help make sure that you're safe. Also, students, when you're in the hallway and when you're in the cafeteria, you're going to want to make sure that you remain socially distant. There are reminders posted throughout the school, and I'll show you a couple of pictures in a second. But students, it is so important that you make sure that you follow our safety protocols, not just to keep yourself safe, but also to keep your students and then also your teachers safe as well. Students, we need your families, before you come to school, we need your families to complete a health screening before sending you to school. All of that information is on GPISD's website, and it's also can be found on YWLA's website. And just remember, students, YWLA will always, always, always follow GPISD and CDC recommendations. If GPISD says to do it, YWLA will always do it. And so everything that we're talking about, we're really following GPISD and CDC recommendations. All right, let's take a look at student arrival. So students, there are a few different ways that you might get to campus. Some of our high school students, guess what? You're gonna drive to campus and your parking lot is still in the exact same place it was. So you're gonna park and then you're gonna enter the building the same way you always entered the building. Some of our students are bus riders, and our bus loop is out front by the main entrance. Students, I showed you a picture of that earlier. So if you're new to campus, look for that. The bus is going to drop you off in front of the building. And then we have our parent drop off and pickup loop. So if you look at the picture with the map on it, parents, you can see exactly where your parents are going to enter. They're going to drive around the back of the building, and they're going to drop you off in the morning by the cafeteria. They're going to pick you up in the afternoon in that same spot by the cafeteria, and then they're going to exit. Students, please make sure your families know that they are not supposed to pull into the bus loop to drop you off or pick you up. We have to make sure that our bus riders are safe with no extra traffic. So students, your parents are going to need to follow the parent loop that goes around the back of the building. Make sure that they do not go in the bus loop. And then there's a message from me. I'll sum it up for you. It's been a crazy year, but students, we are very excited to have you back. And we're going to make sure that we take care of you and that we all take care of each other and that we keep each other safe and healthy. A couple more pieces of information about student arrival. Students' doors, just like always, doors open at 8 o'clock. I know some of you sometimes get there a little bit earlier. I can't let students in the building unless we have staff to monitor, and our teachers don't get on duty until 8 o'clock. So if you get to school early before 8 o'clock, you're going to have to wait outside. Students, make sure that even if you're waiting outside, you have your mask properly worn and that you're maintaining that social distance. So doors open at 8 o'clock. Students, the difference between last year and this year is in the past, if you were in 6th grade, you waited in the cafeteria, 7th and 8th in the bleachers, and then high school waited in the library. This is the way we do it during a pandemic. Students, when you come into the building, you will immediately go to your advisory room. Remember, you can find all of your room numbers on your schedule in Skyward. And so make sure you know where your advisory room is, because that's where you're going to start each and every day. Advisory starts at 8:50. So just be sure that whatever time you get to campus, go to your advisory room. And students, make sure that you're not tardy. Make sure that you are there by 8:50 at the latest. You have to wear your mask to enter the building. That's not news. We talked about that a second ago. We're going to continue to do breakfast in the classroom, students, and you will get that in your advisory class. I like to call it room service because that's a lot more fun. But either way, students, everybody gets a free breakfast there in class. All right, so let's take a look at what it's going to look like during the school day. So you've made it to school. You went straight to your advisory room, and then after that, we're back on our regular schedule. So the same schedule that you've been following as virtual students, when you're in person, you're gonna follow that same timeline. And so on A days, students, you're gonna go to advisory, then 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th periods. And on B days, you're gonna go to advisory, 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th periods. And this is what it's gonna look like for you. You're gonna have assigned seats in every single class. You're gonna make sure that you remain socially distant in your classes. We can't have any shared supplies, so there's not going to be like a whole bunch of markers and you guys writing on things and sharing the same markers or highlighters or anything. And so you have to make sure that you remain socially distant, and that includes not sharing supplies. That includes wearing your masks at all times, and that includes making sure that you stay in that assigned seat. I mentioned iPads a second ago, and so I just wanted to give a reminder. iPads are necessary / mandatory for every single student. So whether you are a virtual learner or whether you are an in-person learner, you need to make sure that you have your iPad charged and ready, because your work is still going to be done in Canvas. Even if you are sitting in the classroom with the teacher, you're still going to access those assignments and that information in Canvas. You just get that added benefit of the teachers right there if you need anything. Students, because of COVID and because we don't want to have people gathering in groups anywhere, nobody is going to have a hallway locker this year. So that means that you're going to need to bring a bag or a backpack, which means it's going to be something that you're going to take from class to class. So that's going to be something that you're going to keep with you all day. So students, think about, how you don't want to carry just tons of stuff to school. Students, if you don't need it, leave it at home, because you're going to have to carry it with you all day. So just make sure that you only have those necessities that you're going to need, including your iPad and then of course, whatever else you need throughout the day. Your backpacks are going to be with you in the classroom, which is different for some of you than before. For those of you who have been on campus, backpacks are going to be with you in the classroom. And so that means it's going to need to be out of the aisle. You can either hang it on the back of your chair, or you can just make sure that it's under your desk. Just make sure it's not in a walkway, that way nobody trips over it. We already talked about water fountains. We already talked about water bottles, but students, be sure to bring a water bottle to school. When you come into the building, it needs to be a water bottle that is either empty or has never been opened, which means that seal, if you buy one of the disposable water bottles, it means that seal has not been broken. Students, as always, you can't bring Starbucks drinks, you can't bring Sonic drinks into the building, because we still have that rule that you can't bring that into the building, but you can bring an unopened water bottle as well as a refillable empty water bottle. So let's talk about classes for a second. You know that you're going to stay with A day, what classes you're going to go to, B day, what classes you're going to go to. I already mentioned that you're going to have assigned seats in each class, and you're going to remain socially distant, and your mask is going to stay on except when you're eating breakfast in the classroom in the morning, or except whenever you're eating lunch. We already talked about iPads. Students, do not forget your iPad. We don't have extras at school that we can loan out. You have to bring your iPad, even though you're going to be in person, and it needs to be charged. So students, at the end of each class period, you're going to be released by grade level. So instead of the bell ringing and everybody going into the hallway at the same time, we're going to release by grade level, and it's going to be staggered. So that means we're going to release one grade level, we're going to wait a little bit, release another grade level, wait a little bit, another one, and then another one, just because we're trying to make sure that we don't have every single one of you in the hallway at the same time. So listen for those announcements, because that's how you're going to be released to go to the next passing period. And of course, that means that the hallways should not be as crowded, since we're doing a staggered release. So that's what it's going to be like between every single class. All right, students, let's talk about lunch. The picture you're looking at in the middle of the screen, that's our brand new socially distant cafeteria. And for those of you who have been to our cafeteria before, you're probably thinking, that's not very many tables. Students, we had to take out some tables because you're no longer going to be sitting shoulder to shoulder. We're going to have 2 students socially distant per table. And you might be wondering, how are we going to fit everybody in the cafeteria? Students, the way our cafeteria is set up, we can hold 100 students in there. And if we have 4 lunches, which we do, then we're going to be able to make sure that everybody is in the cafeteria that needs to be in the cafeteria and is able to sit and eat at a table. Here's some good news that the district gave us about a week ago. So GPISD is providing lunch to all students free of charge for the duration of a grant. So the district received grant money. The grant money goes to feeding students for free. And so as long as we have that grant money, students, you get free lunch and you still get that free breakfast in the classroom. Students, you are going to be escorted to the cafeteria by your teacher, and the purpose of that is just to make sure that you're remaining socially distant. You're walking on that right side of the hallway, and that you are taking care of business to make sure that you're keeping yourself and others around you safe and healthy. All right, let's talk about dismissal. So we've talked about arrival, we've talked about advisory, we talked about classes, we talked about transition between classes. So here's what dismissal is going to look like. Just like to release you to go from class to class, we had a staggered release. We're going to have a staggered release at dismissal. So we're going to be releasing you by hallway. It might not be the same hallway every day, so we want to make sure that we keep you on your toes. But students, by doing that staggered dismissal, that's going to allow us to make sure that we don't have all of you in the hallway exiting the building at the same time, because we still want to make sure that you're maintaining social distancing. Students, the mask has to stay on until you're off of campus property. What that means is when it's 4:15 and you're walking down the hall, you can't just take the mask off. Your mask has to stay on while you're on GPISD and YWLA property. If you're walking home, once you're off property, then you can take your mask off. I recommend that you leave it on till you get home. But while you're on campus, you have to have your mask on. For those of you who are bus riders, you have to have your mask on also while you're on the bus, so make sure you keep that in mind. And then for our students who are picked up by family, You have to have your mask on while you're waiting and until you get into the vehicle. You also need to make sure that while you're waiting that you're staying socially distant. So we can no longer have just the crowd of students waiting for their parents all crowded around by the crosswalk. You all are going to have to spread out and make sure that you're leaving that space between you and other students. And of course, students, you're going to have to leave your mask on. Students, please keep in mind that there are no in-person after-school activities, with the exception of athletics, because athletics is following UIL and GPISD guidelines. But unless you are in athletics and have practice or a game, students, we got to have you off campus because we can't have students still in the building, still on campus, still on the property. So school still ends at 4:15. Buses will be there to pick you up if you're a bus rider. If you walk home or drive home, you need to exit the campus immediately. And then students, if family comes to pick you up and that's your ride home, be sure your family knows that 4:15 is when school is over. They need to be there to get you because we can't have students waiting until, 4:30, 4:45, 5 o'clock, or even later. Be sure your families are there to pick you up. All right, students, this is the bulk of the information. I know it's a lot, but like I said, you don't have to have it memorized. This is just so you have an idea of what you need to do as you are looking forward to in-person learning on Monday. Students, we are all here to support you, and we are here to make sure you have everything you need as we get back to in-person learning. Students, I will see a whole lot of you on Monday.